Good afternoon!
Wow.
Hey, welcome in, Danny and Dusty with you. It is a Big Ten Media Days edition of Danny and Dusty.
So far,
Swag is feverishly running around Lucas Oil Stadium like he's Rich Eisen running the 40-yard dash at the Combine, which he doesn't do that anymore. He does it at the Rose Bowl now.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a cop-out. I would love to Rich Eisen running his 40 in Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, right there with them.
Yeah.
With the laser timing. It's
So
all
we
set
could
up.
superimpose it with Xavier Worthy
Yes.
running a 4-2.
I think it's why he does not do it there. He doesn't want that level of
Well, I mean,
terror.
them's the breaks when you're an old white dude running a 40 on a field where the supreme athletes of our time are all running their 40s.
Could you get under 5 right now? No. Okay.
Nope. I have zero faith in that happening. I can't remember
The last time you ran
the
full speed?
last time I sprinted.
Yeah.
Actually, nope. Don't remember.
I think the last time I did was the fan combine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you pull something?
Yeah, I still
you?
have a foot injury from that.
Really?
Yeah.
I rolled my ankle in the shuttle.
Yeah, that's what I did. I think it's what would that be, a tarsal
Yeah.
in the foot there? Yeah, I still feel that thing pop out of position every now and then.
Yeah. And so, no. I think the last time I ran full speed was we had my son driving a go-kart like in a parking lot. And it was like he was about to go full send over a speed bump. And I went, no! And I sprinted across the parking lot. He still did it, but, everything was okay.
I'll go 20.
That was
2019?
Yeah, I would say that would be right around 2020. It was during COVID. It was during COVID.
Mine was definitely pre-COVID.
Yep.
When we did Outsiders, we used to work out at Lincoln since it was right there.
Sure.
And one of our directors, we was like, "You want to sprint this, the final 100?" And I remember sprinting it and going, "Why did I do that?"
No, that's a bad life choice.
Why did I
so
do
no,
that?
I could not get under 5 right now. I'm confident in that. I'm confident in that.
I don't think I could get under 6 right now.
Yeah.
Like I legitimately have not run and like physically unable to because hips don't work.
There was
in
a
5 years.
There was a time where I would say, yeah, sure. No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't even want to try that anymore. I'm out of that game.
Like honestly, popping bottles if I'm under 6.
Oh, hey, let's go. Let's go.
Like that means I'm actually like physically moving
Yeah.
faster than I think I could at this point with the way my legs are.
So Swag is running around. We have the Big Ten Network up on the TVs in here. We're watching Media Day festivities. I have yet to see him. So I don't even know
He's lying
if
to us.
he's
Not
there.
actually, he's not actually going out
He's
and about.
not. He's not.
I can't find anybody. He's
Yeah.
just at the bar.
It's like, yeah, we know you're at St. Elmo's, bud. You're having shrimp cocktail
Staked
in
up.
Manhattans all day long. No, he is there, and we'll be joined by guests throughout the course of the show today.
Periodically.
Yeah, it is a lot different than the Pac-12 Media Day.
It's not nearly as structured.
No. It is like a free-for-all, and Swag's fighting for his life right now.
But
Yeah,
look, Pac-12 was doomed because of poor leadership, but boy, did they ran a tight media day. It was just
you know what? They knew how to throw a party.
Yeah.
That's one thing the Pac-12 could do, is the Pac-12 knew how to throw a party.
food spread was great down there too.
Yeah, that's part of the party.
That's what I mean.
It's
It was-
part of the party planning.
Everything was like, when we did it at LA Live, that was a nice little soiree.
Yeah. So we'll be joined by some guests. I think we have we're eyeing Jeff Schwartz, Sirius XM, former Oregon Duck.
Schwarzenegger.
He is down in Indy right now doing the whole media day thing, and he's got his show that just wrapped up, and now we have the whole shebang. He'll be coming on once his show is done. I think we're 15 to 20 minutes from now. He's going to be joining us, and the Vancouver Ford text line has inspired something. 503-864-6326. Anyone else have the swag drops running through their head during your day like me? It's over. Hold on, everybody.
Hold on, everybody.
Here's the situation. Now,
We think.
this is this is what we need to do.
Mm.
Anytime you have communication back there with Swag, Rust, correct? Yep. Okay. When Swag says we have an interview, because we have several players, coaches, media personalities that are lined up.
Yeah.
We need to hold on everybody.
Hold on, everybody.
And that is our cue.
There we
that,
go.
Hey, we're going to have somebody sitting down with us.
Hey.
All right.
Yeah,
we're
sounds
going to
good to
do
me.
it. We're
Little
going to
code.
do it on the fly. You just hit the hold on everybody, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Sounds
That-
good.
all
Call
right.
it the swag siren.
That. Oof, yes.
We're sure we don't want this one?
Fart hammer.
No, I'm not sure we don't want it.
Save that for an offensive lineman.
But yeah,
We'll save that for Schwartz.
I think we may have something there. There is something there for sure. But it is Big Ten Media Days, and they are brought to you on the Fan in part by Mods PDX. The future of building is here. So thank you to our friends at Mods PDX and Legends Casino. Fun is how we roll up at Legends Casino, which is in Yakima.
Indeed.
Wow. Hey, look at that. I didn't even. This is why they're advertising it. I didn't even know there was a casino up there. You know.
I like it.
Next time I'm heading up towards Spokane, Lake Coeur d'Alene. You know,
We'll stop on the way there.
yeah, win me some money. Let's go. All right. We're gonna have interviews today, but we also have a radio show to present to you. NFL training camps are going on as well, so we'll intermittently jump in between Big Ten Media Days. We have NFL training camps. There's a lot of news coming out of NFL training camps right now.
Indeed.
Guys reporting, not reporting, surprise reportings, injuries already.
Veterans showing up.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot going on. So it's going to be a busy day today. And then I don't know if we have a couple worst day on the webs that are truly terrifying.
Sure.
Truly terrifying coming up at 1:30.
Mm.
So we're going to have a lot for you. Indianapolis is quite the scene for Big Ten Media Days. They're doing this in a football stadium. They're doing it in Lucas Oil Stadium, and they
It's
have
a very weird setup. I questioned it from the beginning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's too much space.
Yeah.
It's like, you know why it's not organized? Because you have to walk 6 miles to get from one place to the other.
Get your steps in, though.
You
These are-
This is definitely an event where you're getting your steps in.
There are finely tuned athletes and Swigard in that stadium right now that are all getting their steps in. Swag is a walker.
There's a shoe sponsor somewhere right now, just like, oh, we need to sponsor these kids with walking shoes.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some NIL deal right now.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
Skechers is coming for swag. Yeah.
that is good. I mean, Nike, they're
The
going to have
wide
the
foot slip-ins.
Air
Like
Pegasuses.
like Howie Long's wearing.
Oh, the Skechers?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look, I'm not gonna lie.
They're comfortable.
It looks pretty damn comfy.
Like little pillows on your feet.
Yeah.
Little pillows just right there on your
As
feet.
a reminder, I will be 40 in 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of really good shoes that are out right now. Like On Running, they've got
Yeah.
super comfortable shoes.
Yeah.
Did you see the shoe that they have now, like for marathon runners?
No.
It's a woven shoe by like a 3D printer. And so there's no like stitches on it. It is just completely woven. It's like a sock. Just
Oh yeah, they do it. Do they do it like on your foot? Is that what I saw?
I don't think they do it on your foot.
No.
No, I don't think they do it on your foot, but they have like a
Mold.
of a mannequin leg
Gotcha.
that pops out there, and that's how they all the way around. It is the trippiest thing ever.
I thought maybe it was like the spray-on shoes and cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
It kind of is that.
This is not that far
No.
removed. Like
No.
Nike does like the actual, like the LeBrons. Like there's an actual mold of his, like Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Like those guys have legitimate molds of their foot taken, and their shoes are made for them. You're buying shoes that are made for their feet.
Yes, but when they have their like game shoes that they get, they're completely different than what is sold to the public.
Yes. Yeah. Like they are the legitimate customs.
That's a good thing to have.
Oh,
I
God.
feel like if you're a $1 billion athlete like
Yeah.
LeBron is, I feel like that's important.
That's actually the thing that's kept him going.
Yeah.
That's actually kept him healthy.
And this is the thing that's super disgusting is athletes' feet.
Mm.
They are mangled.
Like I will take it to my grave. Wes Matthews, worst feet I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean,
Look like somebody. What's the
like Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber.
No. Oh, it's worse. Oh God, what's that movie? Where
nails
he's
are
got,
just bad.
It's not the James Bond one where he's got Daniel Craig tied to the chair. It's the same kind of situation when they're hammering somebody's toes with a hammer.
Oh.
That's what Wesley Matthews' toes look like.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah.
But think about that, though. When your livelihood is to run around, start, stop,
Get stepped on.
sweat,
Ugh.
and in your hours every day,
Mhm.
you're putting in like 12 hours
You're running-
every day.
You're running 2.5 to 3 miles a game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, your feet are going to take a beating.
Yeah.
They're nasty. That's why so many athletes now are doing manis pedis.
Mhm.
Got to take care of your
Look, it's
your
great for you.
tools. Got to take care of the tools that you use.
PSA to all the men out there.
Yeah.
Quit being weird about it and go get your freaking petty
Yeah. Yeah.
or your mani. Both.
Whatever. Hey, whatever.
They're good
whatever
for
floats
you.
your boat. But I mean, like if you're working construction, you can't be getting manis all the time. You got to have calluses on your hands.
I'm
Or
sorry,
your
I
hands
still
are going to hurt.
I still just don't want people touching my feet.
Oh, dude, you're missing out.
Yeah, you don't? You
Yeah.
don't want that?
Dude, look, the foot
You
rub,
seem like a
a
foot guy to me.
a f-
This is an upset.
Look, also,
Stinky.
also the foot rub. Forget like the whole like maintenance stuff. It feels good to have like a massage on your feet.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Oh God,
all
I
the
love it.
time. I
love it.
yeah, I'm not a big touch. I might be with
Oh,
Russ
no,
here
listen,
on the
I don't
touch
want
my
people
feet.
touching my feet, and like I'm
Um,
super ticklish
mm.
on the bottom of my foot.
Mm-hmm.
Like that part of it always weirds me out when they
Yeah.
get out the little cheese grater. But yeah, let's call it what it is. It's a cheese grater.
Mhm. Yeah.
But when they do like the actual massage and they just kind of like roll your foot out, oh man, that feels good.
Yeah.
It's a grade A feeling.
All right. Well, there we go. I don't know how we got there, but
Yeah.
we're here.
A little hot stone massage, some paraffin wax.
Sure.
Get look a little
Yeah.
little bubble water treatment.
Poof.
Come on now,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's all
a
about it.
little orange mint scent.
Okay, now you're losing me.
Oh, come on.
The orange mint scent.
Look, I'm not gonna go with jasmine.
Why not? What? I mean, do you have to have a scent?
Yeah, if you're getting like the bubble water, yeah.
All right.
It all
Vancouver
comes with
Ford text
flavors.
line has questions, and they're wondering: do you also like just a touch of eyeshadow, Danny?
No,
No.
Although
I feel like you may have dabbled in guy liner.
I never did, but I am
You know?
going to the 30 Seconds to Mars concert, so maybe I will.
Ooh.
Maybe I will just kind of like go back a little emo.
All right, there we go. All right, well, let's get to Big Ten Media Days. They are underway from Indianapolis, Indiana. Ducks make a splash at Big Ten Media Day. We'll talk about the coaches, players, and commissioner that have taken the podium so far today. This is Danny and Dusty on The Fan. All right, day one of Big Ten Media Days is well underway. It started early this morning with Commissioner of the Big Ten, Tony Petitti, taking the podium. And then you have Illinois, Northwestern, Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers, and Wisconsin today at Big Ten Media Days. How many of the 6 teams do you think make a bowl game this year that are in day one of the Big Ten Media Days? Because you look at it and you got to squint for 4. I think you're looking at about half. And we were just talking to our fine controller, Chuck, who just came in. He's like, how do they break up these teams? It's like, well, I think the goal is to bring in a couple of big brands every single day and to try and carry so you don't have a day where it's Northwestern, Indiana,
Minnesota,
Illinois, Minnesota, all just kind of scrunched together. Like you look at today, obviously the heavy hitters today are Ohio State and Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
They have 2 heavy hitters, and then they have 4 other programs that
thanks for coming
are building or in the dregs of the Big Ten Conference when you look at returning talent and when you look at kind of the optimism surrounding the programs. I think today's crew with Ohio State and Wisconsin, 2 really damn good programs, and you have obviously national championship aspirations for Ohio State, which is far and away the most talented team in the Big Ten. And I do think Oregon is the second most talented team in the Big Ten heading into this year. Ohio State is loaded to the gills across the board. And you are looking at not just great college football players, they got NFL talent littered all over. And you can look at Oregon, you could say there's a lot of position groups where the top end talent is better at Oregon than at Ohio State. The depth that Ohio State has built over the last handful of years, whether it is through the traditional high school recruiting or the transfer portal, they have depth on top of depth. And Oregon, for the first time that I can remember, has got depth at every single position where you can sit there and you can say they can withstand an injury at every level of both offense and defense. And you go, I think they're going to be okay. They would be okay. And you can navigate through it. But Ohio State is that is a national championship caliber team. I think Oregon is a national championship caliber team when you look at all of the modeling and the metrics that say what builds national championship contenders. It is recruiting and stacking talent the way that those 2 programs have. Michigan is, by the way, they're not far behind because of the way that Harbaugh was able to recruit for several years back to back to back to back classes.
Looking through some way too early mocks, just in first round talent alone, the Big Ten currently has roughly 12 players projected to go in the first round.
Yeah, 12, and then you probably have like 13 from the SEC. So you're looking at 25 of the 32 top first round picks.
We find the only non-SEC Big 12 or Big 10 players: Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, Tedorola McMillan, Ben Morrison from Notre Dame, Ollie Gordon.
Oklahoma State.
And Patrick Payton from Florida State. Otherwise, yeah, everyone else is
SEC Big Ten.
Yeah.
SEC Big Ten, and that's the way it's going to run through. And look, with that comes expectations and how you can control those expectations. Ryan Day, he took the podium today and was talking about that very thing with his Ohio State team.
You know, our focus is on this preseason. It's the next step. And, you know, sure, a lot of coaches will say it. You know, you can't really, focus on what happened the year before. You can't get too worried about what's coming down the road. But we all know there's a lot of, noise and a lot of hype around this team. And what we can't do is, let those distractions, grab our focus from what we need to do day in and day out. We know it's going to be a long season, but we got to have a great preseason. We got to have a physical preseason. We got to lay that foundation for what's going to come as we head throughout the season. But we're very, very excited about our guys. We have great experience in that locker room and some great talent. But it's going to take more than talent. It's going to take all the no talent issues to get to where we want to be and reach our goals.
Boy, that is the most coach speak thing that you could possibly say from Ryan Day.
Which is kind of funny because basically what he's saying is I need to not suck at my job, because that's the thing, is that Ohio State does have all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
And if they don't get it done, it is on him.
It is.
Like, look, and this is why we talked about this last year, where I said I don't believe in Ryan Day at that level. I don't, and I think that's the pressure that is on Ryan Day right now. Is that I don't think most people believe in him at that level right now.
I think what he has done with his staff, though, and kind of checking his own ego, taking away play calling duties from himself, handing the offense over to Chip Kelly, hiring Carlos Loughlin from Oregon as your running backs coach, going out and they have secured Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator. He's doing a very good job with that unit. Their big concern is, and this is where if they lack depth anywhere, it's on the offensive line. Where I think that's a position group that you can say Oregon has got an advantage with the depth that they have on the offensive line. From Mario Cristobal to what you now have with Alik Terry and Dan Lanning building on the offensive line, they do have depth on the offensive line. But I think that what Day is saying in his coach speak there is basically how we all feel, though, is you can have the most talented team in the world, but the expectations that come along with being that, Alabama was the most talented team in college football for several years. They didn't win the national championship every year.
No, but they were there.
The most impressive thing about Nick Saban was he always got them to that place where they had a seat at the table, whether it was going down to the wire in the Iron Bowl, in the SEC championship game, or in the 4-team college football playoff. They were always there. And I think that may be to what you're talking about, is where some folks have a question mark with Ryan Day. Is he the guy that can get them over that hump?
Because the talent is there.
Bringing in guys like Chip Kelly, that is a very good start to making sure
which is what Nick
can get over
Saban
that
did.
hump. Yeah,
Nick Saban
absolutely.
brought in, Lane Kiffin, brought in Steve Sarkisian. Like, you bring the list of guys that he brought in. Everyone's like, oh, it's the Nick Saban rehab tour. Yeah, it's also the get Nick Saban's offense kicking butt tour. That's what it was.
Brain trust of coaches. And it's a really hard thing for head coaches, especially when you come up as a play caller like Ryan Day did,
to give that up.
And even Nick Saban did, to then transition to, all right, I'm going to delegate some of my power and responsibilities to people that I trust, and finding those guys that you trust is a really hard thing. That's why going out and getting a Chip Kelly, who had, for all of the faults that Chip has as a recruiter, that dude can maximize talent out of his quarterbacks and from everybody else. He finds a way to mask your shortcomings offensively, because the talent that Oregon had on offense, the running backs were absolutely amazing, but the development of offensive line, the wide receiver play was never game breakers on the outside. The quarterback play, until you got Marcus Mariota,
which again was not a 5-star guy, he's a 3-star kid out of Hawaii.
It was not eye-popping with Jeremiah Masoli or Darren Thomas under Chip Kelly. He maximized and masked their weaknesses by having a stable of running backs that was absolutely incredible. Running an offense that was innovative and different than what anybody else was doing at the time, and times have caught up, and the offense isn't nearly as explosive. But his ability as a play caller to adapt and adjust, UCLA was not nearly as talented as their record indicated, and they weren't very good either.
No.
Win-loss wise. I think that Chip, but that's a monster hire.
Yes.
And that goes a long way with the coach speak verbal diarrhea that Ryan Day was preaching there, in that you need to block everything else out in order to maximize what they have from a talent standpoint. Ryan Day's on the hot seat, though, this year.
Oh, if they either lose to Michigan, I think they can actually lose to Oregon, and it won't be the death of him. But if they lose to Michigan, I think he's done.
Yeah. Well, if you lose to Oregon and Michigan in the same year, I don't think he's done if they lose to. Depends on what Michigan looks like this year.
I don't think so. I think if they lose to Michigan again 3 straight years, I think he's done.
Yeah. I think it is what they do in the playoff. When they
would have to win a title, I think, in order
Yeah.
offset a loss to Michigan again.
Like if they lose to Michigan and then lose in the championship game,
Yeah,
I could see that.
I could see him being gone.
With the level of talent, the expectations that have been heaped upon them, and the expectations that he is not running from either, because he knows how talented the roster is. You can't ignore
Everyone in the
how
country
good
is
they are.
saying that they have the most talent in the country.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And like this Vancouver Ford text line, bold move to bring Chip Kelly in as your O coordinator. Chip has the potential to become a fan favorite coach. Yeah. He may hire his replacement.
Yeah.
As
Although,
offensive coordinator.
would Chip would want to run that machine.
I think Chip would, but I don't know. The fact that Chip Kelly left being a head coach because he wanted to go in and coach a position again and not have those responsibilities.
Yeah.
The head coaching world has changed so much, and there are coaches, we've talked about this at length, where you sit there and you go from being hands-on coaches, the responsibilities now, you cannot be as hands-on as you would like to. You have to be a different mindset of a head coach. Like, it's completely different in that you are essentially, we were talking about this yesterday with general managers in college football programs now. You are essentially the president of a franchise. And
a corporation.
Yeah, like an NFL team, you are the president of football operations. You have a general manager, and you are navigating everything from NIL to the guys on your roster right now to every minute detail that goes into getting you to game day, and really not. And then
Not
on
about
game
game
day,
day.
it is game management. Like in that's where you're at. It's a weird landscape, and guys are just some coaches are saying, not for me anymore.
It's not
to be
the
a head
old ball
coach.
coach anymore.
They're the old heads that are adapting to it and are figuring it out. I give them a ton of credit. And we have audio from Brett Bielema, who's talking about their roster at Illinois. But Bielema said something in his availability that I thought was interesting. He's like, dude, I was on a plane. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, because some kid, an offensive lineman, entered the portal. I'd never been to Albuquerque, New Mexico in my entire life. I was there. I recruited him. And then I was on a plane the next day heading over to the East Coast because there was another kid who was in the portal, and I needed to go and visit him as well. And there's a lot of coaches who are like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Bielema is a guy who's transitioning into the modern
Yes.
college football head coach, and it's a different world, man. Like it's completely different. The interesting thing is that what head coaches do now, I think the days of Saban being like the defensive backs coach and head coach, those are gone. Like you go around, and if you were to go to an Oregon practice, for example, Dan Lanning has got a microphone in his back pocket, and he's just scanning
Different
across
groups,
the field. And if he sees something, he goes on the mic and says, whoa, 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 boom. And then he pops over there. Then he's bopping over to the defensive side, back over to the offensive side, over to the defense. Like it is all over the place. Like, these guys are wired so differently now. It's crazy. And to the point that you said at the very beginning of this, is Ryan Day that guy? That is going to be the massive question heading into this year. 503-864-6326. We're waiting on Jeff Schwartz of Sirius XM and Fox Sports. He's also former Oregon Duck. He's at Big Ten Media Days over in Indianapolis. He may be joining us next, but if not, it's okay because we got more audio to go. Big Ten Media Days underway. 6 teams on the podiums today. Both the Ducks and the Huskies will be on Thursday. Tomorrow, USC and UCLA make their Big Ten debuts. First, we got Rust with SportsCenter.
This is a Big Ten Media Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your SportsCenter update. First on the Fan, the Mariners have lost 6 of their last 7. Got the Angels in T-Mobile Park for the second of 3 games. Logan Gilbert versus Jose Soriano is your pitching matchup. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. M shortstop J.P. Crawford likely headed for the injured list after suffering a hairline fracture in his right pinky in last night's loss. Crawford previously hit the IL with an oblique strain and was out of the lineup for nearly a month. In the NFL, Browns receiver Amari Cooper is reported to camp after the two sides agreed to a restructured contract that will guarantee his $20 million salary and give him a raise. The Jaguars announced the signing of cornerback Tyson Campbell to a 4-year, $76.5 million extension with $53.4 million guaranteed, making him the 6th highest paid corner in the league. NFL Network reporting the 49ers receiver Brandon Ayuk reporting to camp despite his trade request over extension negotiations. And ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting Jets defensive end Hassan Reddick does not plan to report to training camp today as he's looking for a new deal. Reddick is set to make $14.5 million in the final year of his contract. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Hot Corner, now in its new time. Tuesdays at 7 after Isaac and Sue on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Big Ten Media Days are underway in Indianapolis. Again, the lineup today: Illinois, Northwestern, Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers, Wisconsin. Tomorrow is Iowa, Michigan State, Nebraska, Penn State, UCLA, USC. And then day 3, Thursday, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington. We're waiting on Jeff Schwartz, former Oregon Duck, Sirius XM, and Fox Sports college football analyst, who is hopefully going to be joining us soon. Apparently, it seems like it's a madhouse.
Question mark?
Yeah,
I'm
sounds
Ron
like it's
Burgundy.
bananas there.
Yeah. Oregon tried to make a splash today, though. Well, literally, the
literal
giant
splash?
duck is in the White River, I guess, runs through Indianapolis. It sounds beautiful.
Mm.
It's like a 3-story duck.
It is.
This thing is an inflatable duck that's just sitting in the middle of a river next to a bridge.
It looks like one of those things that you know the big like launch pads that you
Yeah.
have for the lake.
Yeah.
This looks like the thing that you land on.
I've always wanted to do that. The blob.
Yeah, dude, those are you get sent, I'm not kidding, like 40, 50 feet in the air.
Yeah.
It's control how you land.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Control how you land, man. Don't do it inebriated. I will just say that.
Yeah. Have you done it?
I've done it, and I
You
watched
have?
a buddy of mine do it, and he was completely schmammered, and he belly flopped so hard, I felt bad for him. The smack sound that we heard, and when he came back to the shore, he would look like he was sunburned.
Uh-oh.
Like it was that bad. It was like we were like, oh no. He was bruised the next day. It was like, oh,
That's tough.
That sucks, dude.
You got to have that body control. It's core strength right
but
there.
it was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
I mean, he rolled down the windows hard, just
Yeah.
all over the place.
You got to be able to control
you
that.
you gotta lock in. At bare minimum, cannonball.
That was a surprise to see that massive duck in the
Yeah. Yeah,
river
I mean,
in
and in
Indianapolis.
every picture I see, there's no security, and I'm like, nobody's trying to get on this thing, huh?
Who's gonna ride it?
I
Who's
mean,
gonna
like,
ride that
somebody's got to be like,
duck?
I'm gonna get on the duck.
I'm gonna go for a ride.
I'm gonna get that duck.
Where do you store that, and how do you get that there? I have so many questions. I mean,
it's
that's not like
airdropped. It flew in.
like, what are we doing here? How does that end up in there?
Operation Dumbo Drop.
Duck drop. Yeah.
Operation the Duck Drop.
Yeah.
All right.
Boy, are my arms tired.
Well, I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Mm.
But it is getting exactly what they wanted out of that, which is engagement. People are saying, Oregon has arrived to the Big Ten now that an inflatable duck that is 3 stories high is in the middle of the river in downtown Indianapolis. It is so weird to sit here and still think about Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA in the Big Ten. I mean, it was like when we got to that point where we got used to it. It started to settle in that this was kind of the world that we were living in now was all 4 of those West schools in the Big Ten. It is so damn weird to see Oregon's logos and Washington's logo and USC and UCLA logo all over Indianapolis now.
Look, the thing is, you and I were talking about this before we went on air. We have to, and Swag has to familiarize himself with the new people of the Big Ten. It's like the first day of high school. Like
really
legitimately, like you've got these people that have already been there and been established. Those are your juniors and seniors, and they know kind of the run of the mill. And meanwhile, you've got everybody else, all the Pac-12 folks who are just looking around like, can I get a hand here? Want to point out where I need to go?
Yeah.
Kind of situation. Like I'm looking at the Big Ten dais. I'm like, I don't know these players. I don't know the broadcasters. I don't know the local media people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like when you're doing Pac-12 media days, it's like, oh yeah, no, I know this guy from this market. I know this guy from this market. You know this coach. You know this player. Whether you covered high school or you knew this kid coming out because he's a top prospect from your region. Like the familiarity is just so much more significant. And then now there's none.
Yeah, all you see is like the Big Ten Network. You have Ashley Adamson, formerly the Pac-12 Network, Yogi Roth, who was a Pac-12 Network analyst. They are now with the Big Ten, and
they did that to have some familiarity.
But they are treating them kind of like the new kids in the school because they had all the Big Ten, analysts up at their set. And then they were just talking to them like, so what do you know about Oregon? What do you know about like Washington? What are they bringing to the table? So the unfamiliarity is on both sides of this. But man, it's bizarre.
It highlights something I think that's actually very important where in the past we always used to be like, no. There's no bias. There's like the Big Ten, the SEC, they watch everybody else. No, they don't.
Mm-mm.
No, they don't. Nobody. The Pac-12 people watch the Pac-12. The Big Ten people watch the Big Ten. The SEC watches the SEC. Their brand of they all smell their own farts, and they all think they smell the best.
Yeah,
and you're seeing that here.
Yeah, absolutely. You are.
Everybody loves their own brand.
Yeah,
that's right. It goes back to Open Championship week there. Look at you, Russ, boomeranging back his own drops from the Opens from a week ago. Look at that. But no, there is I got to tell you, like it has been. There's been a lot of information. It's been like an information overload gearing up for this college football season.
You could say they're blowing and going.
For me personally, because of the fact that I've had no reason whatsoever to be up to date on Illinois or Maryland.
God, no.
Or whatever
Rutgers?
Michigan State looks like now. Yeah, Rutgers, I've always kind of had like this weird eye on Rutgers for a while because when Shiano was there the first time and he got the McCrory brothers there and Ray Rice at Rutgers, it was like, how is he doing this there? But they became irrelevant once he left, and now he's getting them back there. Like Rutgers is not going to be a road apple this year. They don't play Oregon, but Illinois kind of fits in that same mold of Brett Bielema is trying to get them back on the right track. I think 2 years ago they went 8-5. Last year they had a dip and they had a down year, but this year Bielema is returning a ton of talent to their roster, went out into the portal and was just trying to acquire as many vets as he possibly could. I don't think that they go into Autzen Stadium and win a football game. I'm not saying that. They're going to be better than what people anticipate because we have just such an unfamiliar base of knowledge about Illinois football that as you start reading up on, who is returning for them, what went wrong for them last year, how they get back on the right track and what steps Bielema took, they're not going to be just some coast ride over them. Again, don't think they're going to go into Autzen Stadium and win in late October, but at the same time, you start figuring out like, hey, there could be some sneaky okay teams there in the Big Ten that come up on you. Maryland, which they took massive steps forward with Tua's younger brother at quarterback over the last handful of years. Mike Loxley has done a decent job. They are going to be a team that I think some folks say, hey, Maryland may not be that bad this year. They probably will be bad this year.
They're not that bad. Well,
yeah, they're not going to be that great.
Yeah, either.
Right? As you start diving in and you start looking at...
Would you say they're the Cal of the Big Ten? I think that's how we need to frame this. It's
okay.
Like which teams line up to which historically.
Okay. You want to give me a couple of segments to think about this, and I can... I think we'll be able to
we can draw some traditional lines, right? To familiarize our Pac-12 audience.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Okay.
I've done far more reading than I have in a long time because, like, again, with the Pac-12, you always had that baseline of knowledge that you go from year to year to year, and you're like, okay, I have that familiarity. Now it's just like this information overload that I have where I'm trying to figure out, and I had to start because I do sidelines for Oregon with who's on their schedule this year, right? So it was the deep dive into Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue, Illinois, Maryland, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Like that was because UCLA, Washington have that baseline there. I mean, UCLA was a little bit tougher because of
a very different team.
The turnover, stylistic changes with Sean Foster as your head coach. It's a different world down in
even with Fish and the changes,
Redwood.
you still kind of know what's going on in Washington. But that's also the part of this is we grew up out here, so we have the institutional knowledge of the last 25 years of the Pac-10, Pac-12, and kind of the history and everything that comes along with that.
Yep.
We're significantly further behind. Even though I grew up, Michigan was my other team. Like Charles Woodson is my favorite non-USC player of all time. So I kind of familiarize myself. Like, don't get me wrong, I watch college football across the board, but you can't be as intimately tied to that stuff as the programs you grow up with.
For sure.
And I think that's That's going to be the biggest part of this. And I'm not joking when I say this. I've used College Football 25 for the last couple nights to familiarize myself with the rosters in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Legitimately, I'm like, who do I need to be looking for on Purdue? Who do I need to be looking for at Indiana? Like, you start going, Van Dyke. I go, what?
Yeah,
Okay.
Tyler Van Dyke,
Yeah,
Miami quarterback,
yeah.
Tyler Van Dyke.
And you're like, that
Now
name
with
sounds familiar. And you're like,
Wisconsin.
oh, that's right. And then you start like just kind of building that
Yep.
database up of like, okay, that's right. That's what the Big Ten has, and as opposed to like those few crossover matchups that we get in the first couple weeks of the season, where you're like, you get that one team, and you build up that knowledge base for it. And now it's like, oh, we need to know the entire conference.
Well, let's get you a little familiar with Illinois, because Brett Bielema, big old hoss himself, the head coach of the Illini, he
Hog King,
took the what?
the Hog King.
Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore. They're embracing the hog in Arkansas. That was Sam Pittman, their head coach. He said the mantra of the year is embrace the hog in Fayetteville. So
Grab the hog.
woo pig suey. Brett Bielema, though, at Illinois, he took the podium and discussed the roster that he tried to assemble this year. And I think this is where the transfer portal for the coaches that are adapting is trending towards. Next on The Fan. All right, it is Big Ten Media Days. And Big Ten Media Days on the Fan are brought to you in part by Legends Casino. Fun is how we roll. Illinois, one of the teams that is making the rounds at Media Days today, and coming off a 5-7 season in 2023, Brett Bielema took the podium today and was asked about the experience of his team, and I thought that this was notable in how teams are being built around college football.
We know that how important the offensive line is going to be. So I think that some guys have really stepped up. Josh Fryer, to me, has had an unbelievable summer. Donnie's been much a leader. But when it comes to that right guard position, I think you're going to see Carson Hinsman and Seth. They're both can swing between center and guard. But then Tegra Shabola is someone that has had another guy who stepped up and had a good summer. Luke Montgomery.
He's talking about his offensive line there, and we wanted. He actually was discussing. That's on me, Rust. His return of the way he went out and built his roster, and he's talked about a couple of those offensive linemen. He went out, got into the portal, got a left tackle, went out and got a right tackle out of the portal, and they were returning 17 players or bringing in 17 players to this Illinois team in 2024 that have played and started in 10 or more games in their careers, including a receiver that they got from Ole Miss who's got 10. You've got J.C. Davis, left tackle from New Mexico, who started 40 games in college football.
Is that he went down to Albuquerque to go get?
That's the guy he went to Albuquerque to go and get, who was one of the higher graded
transfers.
No, offensive linemen in the Mountain West a year ago from New Mexico. But the idea of where coaches are targeting the transfer portal guys, it's not necessarily the highly touted recruit who's not getting the run at a particular place, so we're going to go and get him.
It's an experienced guy.
It is experience over and over again. You look at Oregon where they went and they got Dylan Gabriel, a guy who Bo Nix's record for starts in college football is going to last a season before Dylan Gabriel overtakes him because he's already started 50 games in college football. That is where a lot of coaches are transitioning into the portal and saying, all right, if we have a guy who's started 3 years or 3+ when you have the 4 games that you can play as a freshman and still hold your red shirt, and we can add experience to our team, that is where teams like Illinois say, this is how we get from 8-5 to 5-7 back up to a bowl team, 7-8 wins on their. Are they going to be a world beater? Absolutely not.
No, but they're going to be a pain to deal with.
And that is something that you cannot, you can't overlook.
No.
In the transfer portal and how different coaches are approaching
We've
it.
talked about this when heading into last season, the way that Oregon was returning their quarterback, their head coach, their coordinators, with the exception of transferring over to Will Stein. It was one of those situations where you're just like, okay, like the consistency, that's what matters. And you look up and down, the teams with the most consistency and the most experience, that's what matters. Yes, talent matters, but the very, 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 very top when we're talking about the college football playoff. But that consistency, that institutional knowledge, the experience, the unflappableness that comes with upperclassmen, all of that stuff matters more over the course of 13 weeks than just the top end talent. And on a completely different side note, Brett Bielema, his voice does not match him.
That would be because
Ryan
right there
Day.
I got the right timestamp, but the wrong coach.
Okay.
All right, that was Ryan.
That was
Day.
Ryan.
Oh, that was
That
saying,
was Ryan Day.
that
Brett
does not
Bielema is more
I was
That's
saying-
on me right here.
Okay.
country.
I was
All
saying that doesn't sound like him.
right. They really though need a massive jump in quarterback play. They got Luke Altmaier out of the transfer portal last year from Ole Miss, and you look at the struggles that he had. They absolutely got brutalized by their offensive line, which is completely out of the ordinary for a Brett Bielema team, which is built in trenches. Their defensive line is going to be really good this year. They were really good last year. They lose Isaiah Newton, who was a first-team All-Big Ten, but they went into the portal. They got a couple guys from there, and then also they've been kind of developing their trenches on the defensive side far ahead of where their offense is. They need far better quarterback play.
Yeah.
Altmaier got sacked 34 times.
Well, we were
last
talking
year.
about this yesterday. Like the bar for acceptable level quarterback play of the major conferences, the Big Ten is the one that is the furthest behind.
It is way behind. In 9 games, sacked 34 times. That's
Let's take a
brutal.
play.
That is absolutely
And that doesn't even count the hurries, knockdowns.
carnage.
Yeah, that's getting put in the dirt.
Carnage up front. Okay. Illinois, check them off the list.
There you go.
Doesn't sound like Swag is having success wrangling any of the Illinois football players.
He's wrestling or he's fishing in an empty hole, man.
Hey, sometimes you got to move the boat.
Yeah, change the bait.
You got to
Something.
move the boat a little bit. But
Start fishing with dynamite.
yeah, we are looking forward. He is efforting. Hudson Card, Purdue quarterback. Hopefully we can catch up with him. Jeff Schwartz, we're still trying to track him down as well at Big Ten Media Days.
He should be really difficult to find. He's a small man.
He's a massive human. Well, there's a lot of massive human beings there.
It is the Big Ten.
Jack Nelson is there, the
Yeah,
Wisconsin
good
offensive tackle.
Lord.
He is 6'7".
Yeah, and he's filled out.
My goodness. And their linebackers are huge.
Yeah, although they brought their safety with him. He was 6'2", looking like he was about 6'4", 240.
Yeah, those Wisconsin boys, they're just massive.
Yeah, no, there's I'd say there's something in the water, but I don't think they ever drink water. I think it's nothing but milk straight from the
Just
cow's teat.
Milk and spotted cow beer from a young age, which I've heard is delightful.
It is.
I want to go, when I go to Wisconsin, I think one of the things I'm going to try and do is just get me a spotted cow.
Shout out my old buddy in North Dakota, Jacob Berger, who from Wisconsin would drive back home there's some big country music festival they have there every year. He would go back for that.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, no, I'm talking,
everything is tracking right
think
now.
about the Gorge
Mhm.
festivals, but way crazier. And no, seriously, my God! But he would come back with that beer for everybody to try.
All right.
He was spreading the word of his people.
Well, you know what else you got to look for in Wisconsin over there too?
He's gonna go get him one of those Milwaukee butter hogs.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true about the fine people of Milwaukee. I don't want to put that evil on them right now.
Milwaukee,
Algonquin for the good land.
indeed.
Alice Cooper taught me that
Mhm.
in 1992.
Still one of the greatest lines in cinema.
All right, 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. A P1 deal, bringing up something that is fascinating. And I want to get to this because there's a lot of hype around the Oregon Ducks joining the Big Ten Conference. How hard is it and how dominant has the conference been to win? It's only a handful of teams that come out on top of the Big Ten.
Indeed.
We'll get to that next. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. Hour number 2, Danny and Dusty with you. Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis. Jason Swigard fighting the good fight, trying to track down a bunch of interviews for us. It's tough. It's the new day. He's the new kid in high school. You know, as you said earlier, that's a good comp here. Just trying to feel it out. Get to know all these.
We need to get Swag liquored up so he gets a little confidence.
Yeah. Oh, now we're talking.
Right?
Yeah.
Go introduce himself to new friend groups.
Yeah.
Go up there and tell him about his sweet running shorts.
Yes, this plum smugglers. All right. P1 Deal tweeted in, if Oregon wins the conference outright this year, they'll have the same number of outright Big Ten titles as Indiana. They joined in 1953. I looked this up. Indiana, I have 2 Big Ten titles to their name. 1945 and 1967. But 45 would be outright.
And not only would it be outright, it would be after what?
World War II.
Yeah, so you always have to take a look at the old sports records between 1939 and 1945 with a bit of a side eye.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Just because, the world was in turmoil.
I think that's a good indicator of sports records right there.
Like those
and
ones. And
also, like, I don't know, integration,
Yeah,
sports,
those ones, you start taking a look at those ones around like 1960 to 1966 when you start like, I don't know. There's a lot in there. Are you sure you were really the best of the best then?
Answer no. Since the Big Ten expanded in 2011 and again in 2014. 2011 was the welcoming of Nebraska, and then they brought in Maryland and Rutgers in 2014. How hard is it to win the Big Ten title? It's a consolidation of power. Since 2011.
Is it 3 teams?
No, it's more than that.
Okay.
But you've had Michigan has won it in 21, 22, 23. Ohio State won it in 2019, 18, and 2017. So, right, already
2
there.
teams have won in 7 straight years.
Yeah, we're getting the math there. You're starting to see the trend. I'm putting down here. You have got Penn State in 2016, Michigan State in 2015.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yep. And then you go back to Ohio State in 2014. 2013 was Michigan State again, and then 2012 and 2011 have been Wisconsin. All right, think about that.
Oh, that's the Bielema years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Michigan and Ohio State have won 7 in a row. The only other teams that have won in their expansion era are Wisconsin, Penn State, and Michigan State. You look at where those 3 programs are at right now. Wisconsin is not in a place to win a Big Ten championship right now, nor are Penn State. Penn State has a shot because they do have talent, and they are a really damn good program. Michigan State does not this year under Jonathan Smith, year 1.
No, that Michigan State team is the one that beat Oregon.
Yeah,
that's the Vernon Adams Oregon team.
In East Lansing. Yeah. In East Lansing, Michigan. They won that, and then they went to Autzen the next year and did not win that game. But think about that. There have been, if you look at Minnesota, last time that they even shared a conference title was 1967. Illinois, 2001. Iowa.
God, who was that team?
2004.
Illinois.
That was Juice Williams.
God, was that?
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Iowa. We think of Iowa and Kirk Ferentz,
They're
right?
Usually a
They've
game
been
away.
a really good. 2004 is the last time they've won a Big Ten title.
If you look, I wonder how many second place finishes they have, because I bet you it's a ton.
Northwestern and Purdue shared it in 2000. A guy named Drew Brees, quarterback there. Right?
Northwestern had that weird. Northwestern has like one season every 15 years where they come out of nowhere, and I don't think they can do
Darnell
this.
Autry, everybody.
Yeah, I don't think they can do this anymore in this day and age. I don't think the Boise States, and Northwestern is not the same as Boise State's, but I don't think you can have those anymore with how open things are. And I think there's
Well, you think a team coming out of nowhere
Yeah.
and crashing the party
Yeah.
is done now?
I think unless you go full James Madison, where you're like, we're gonna do this.
Well, yeah, I think that's what all of the like Boise State. That's what they did. Like they went. We are going to focus all of our efforts into becoming a football school, and it was a slow build. Dan Hawkins to Chris Peterson, but at the same time, you look at the resources they pumped in from a university standpoint. That is what they did.
Yeah, you've got the James Madison coach that just took over and
Kurt Signetti, at Indiana.
And did you hear what he said yesterday?
Yes, I did.
It's fantastic. I just win,
dude. He is a.
I was like, oh,
he is 100%. Like, dude is a winner. He's like Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah,
like he goes places and he turns it around in short order. But he also at JMU inherited a powerhouse FCS program.
But he took it to the next level.
Took them up a step even more.
Took it to the limit.
But they got some work to do at Indiana.
Yeah,
they got a lot of work.
But I
to
mean,
do
Kalen DeBoer did the same thing.
Yeah,
at Indiana. Now
he's the OC there.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're taking if Michael Penix is healthy at Indiana, how different does that look?
It looks a lot different. Yeah.
So.
But again, the offensive line was the reason
why he wasn't healthy. What happened? But I think it's going to be really, unless you're dumping the same amount of resources into this, I just don't think it's something you can make happen.
I think that's the hope, though, of the 12-team playoff, though, is that you do get those teams at the end of the year that are playing far better than, like Stanford. When they ended up with Andrew Luck and Jim Harbaugh playing in the Orange Bowl, that was one of the best teams in college football. I mean, at the end of the year, they were playing like arguably the best team in college football. But they weren't able to crash the party because we went from 2 teams to 4 teams, and it just wasn't viable to have that. With a 12-team playoff, hopefully you get a team that can go in and upset someone in their home stadium too with the first round of those playoffs, and you get to go in the power that you can generate moving forward with your program,
even with the additional game.
That might be how that does happen, because I think in the current state of college football, if it was just a 4-team playoff still, I think you're right in that NIL transfer portal, it wouldn't allow for those guys to stick around. Maybe the 12-team playoff is kind of the launching point where it can bring some of those programs back.
Look, I mean, maybe I am wrong. Maybe you're right there. And I just started thinking about it, and then that sense of like, what happens if you Statue of Liberty, Oklahoma, in the first round in Norman, and now you're into the next round riding that wave.
Yep,
buddy.
That's it. That's it right there. That is how you
juice from
move
that
forward.
That game today would be, I don't even know.
Yeah,
that'd be overwhelming.
But the portal guys opting out of bowl games, that was something that killed that momentum for programs like Boise State too, because playing in the Fiesta Bowl then, it was the honor.
Yes,
right. You weren't opting out to go and play in the NFL and train for the draft. Everybody was playing. Now when we have these upsets in both, like when Tulane beats USC in the Cotton Bowl, right? It was like, but that wasn't like USC at full strength, and so people, looked at it a little bit cockeyed. In the 12-team playoff, it'll be if one of those G5 schools gets a seat at that table and they go and they win.
That might be because they are fully loaded.
It may be a launching point, and nobody's opting out of a first round of a playoff game. Like that. That is why you have
for those guys that might
playoff.
Be your way to get into the top 3 rounds of the NFL draft is that game.
Hot damn. 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. We are chugging right along here. It is Big Ten Media Days, and they are brought to you by Legends Casino and Mods PDX. Thank you to our sponsors that have swag out there, fighting the good fight for us and tracking down interviews. We will have, hopefully, Hudson Card, Purdue quarterback, coming up. His story and connection to the University of Oregon's football program is pretty significant, and we'll hopefully get a chance to talk to him and connect those dots for everybody out there. But coming up next, let's go let's go with let's pivot to the NFL a little bit because there's a lot of news coming out of the NFL right now. And teams are reporting to training camp. Teams are already practicing in training camp. And good golly, Miss Molly, there is some news of guys who are reporting and not reporting. Next on The Fan. All right, quick pivot away from Big Ten Media Days as a lot of news out of the NFL is coming down the pipeline. Couple notables that are not reporting to camp as of right now. We talked about Jordan Love yesterday, who did report to camp, but he's being held out of practices as they finalize a long-term contract extension with their quarterback. And look, we could see, Adam Schefter says, could be the richest quarterback contract in NFL history, which that would be quite the thing.
I don't get that.
Expectations are high. It's the nature of the beast in the NFL. Next guy up is the highest guy up. And it'll maybe, for a guy like Jordan Love, it seems like that would be for a year. And then it maybe comes back down to earth and we see that team-friendly deal. But he is coming off a very team-friendly deal last year.
Sure.
And outperformed what he was getting paid. Another one, though, is something that's been lingering over New York for quite a while. Hassan Reddick continues to hold out of Jets camp. Remember, mini camp, he was a no-show. Robert Saleh was asked about it. He looked like he was peeved because they just traded for Reddick from the Philadelphia Eagles, and he wasn't at mini camp. He tried to play coy and play dumb, like he didn't know that Reddick wanted a new deal from Philly because he's entering the final year of his contract. He has had 50.5 sacks over the last 4 years. He's been
real good,
wildly productive, and is getting paid $14.5 million, which is nowhere near what the high-level edge rushers get paid in the National Football League and pass rushers get paid in the National Football League. He is right smack dab in the middle of those guys. I think it was like 8th overall was his pay for pass rushers. He wanted a new deal in Philly. And it's no surprise he wants one in New York. But the longer that this thing lingers for the Jets, the worse off you are because you traded for the guy.
Yeah, because you gave up stuff. Like that's kind of the weird part about that. Yeah, I don't really understand some of these NFL deals when guys get traded for without having like a sign and trade.
You have the understanding, and that's why the Robert Saleh stuff never made sense. Like, you knew he wanted a new deal,
But also,
and as the team that's trading for him, you better have what he wants already known and ready to give it to him.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, why don't they do like sign and trades in the NFL? Like, is the CBA preclude that? Like, I'm not nearly as well versed in the NFL CBA.
Well, yeah, because you do have pre and post July 1 designations. Sure. So trading those, the CBA in the NFL is an absolute
disaster
mess.
Yes. But it's wondering, like, because the thing about it is that if you, it's kind of funny. It's like, well, you can't do that as an agent. Look, there are some agents, particularly in the NFL, who are, I would say underhanded is a nice way of phrasing it. They're just going to do whatever they can to leverage the living bejesus out of teams.
Yep.
And in the NFL, where the money's not guaranteed, it is cutthroat. But I'm both surprised and not surprised at the same time of, like, what's to stop Hassan Reddick's agent from getting that trade done under the auspices of, we'll agree to X, Y, and Z, and then going, hey, you just traded for us. You gave up real capital.
Yep.
Price of the brick just went up. Yesterday's price isn't today's price. Like, what is to stop that other than your reputation? And it's nothing. Nothing is there to preclude that.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's kind of like I wonder how much of that was a situation with Saleh last year, in that maybe he was under the understanding that, you know, from his GM's perspective, that a deal framework was very close, and that's why they consummated the trade, and that it didn't materialize so quickly.
Well, in all
frustrations.
By all reports, the Jets felt like they were, when they traded for him for a 2026 conditional draft pick to Philly, it was, they felt like they had the framework in place, and then he showed up and it's like, that ain't good enough for us.
And that's what I mean.
I don't know, but he's given up a ton of money right now. He's already given up $250,000 in a workout bonus for missing training camp, $50,000 fine for missing mandatory minicamp.
And then it turns into daily now,
It is $50,000 per day, mandatory by the collective bargaining agreement, because this is what used to happen is guys used to get fined for missing and holdouts during training camp, and they'd be like, we're going to waive those fines. You can't waive them anymore under the new collective bargaining agreement, which means all the players do is say, okay, if I miss 4 days at $50,000 a pop, I want $200,000 extra on my deal. And that, for a team that is up against the cap, yeah, that's not a good place to be in.
No.
So Hassan Reddick not reporting to the Jets. Guy who is reporting, he wants his money. We know he wants his money. It's very important to him that he gets paid. Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers reported to camp because he doesn't want to give up $50,000 a day. And
he's trying to get more money, not lose it.
John Lynch came out and said, we are still working towards signing Brandon to a contract extension that works for both he and us, the San Francisco 49ers. That's going to be easier said than done with all of the things that Ayuk has said, including formally requesting a trade to the franchise, and the fact that he's said he's felt disrespected by the San Francisco 49ers with the amount of touches he got in the Super Bowl and with the contract that they're offering him right now. But he's at 49ers training camp. I don't know if he's going to be out on the field at all, but he's not going to miss out on that $50,000 a day. That's for dang sure.
Also in the NFC West, Matthew Stafford is reported to the Rams, and they are restructuring his guaranteed money.
They're going to be pretty good this year.
They are. They're going to be surprisingly good as long as they can stay healthy. But Stafford had 3 years remaining on the $40 million a year contract extension he signed in 2022, but only had $15 million guaranteed beyond this year. Stafford is currently 30? Yes, 36.
Kick the can down the road.
Yeah, but he's also got a neck that doesn't work.
Yeah, and they're also looking at his best friend Clayton Kershaw, who's hurt too for the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that Clayton Kershaw and Matthew Stafford were childhood friends?
Yeah, went to the same high school, played baseball together.
No way.
Just think of those two arms on a team.
That would be unfair. Did they win the high school state championship in baseball?
I don't know. I know they were really
Or were they the
good.
Mariners, where they just had a lot of pitching
They
and
went
nobody could
They
hit?
went to Carrollton, didn't they?
You mean South Lake Carroll?
Oh, I say Carrollton? Good Lord. Yeah, I think South Lake. I think they went. I think that's where they went.
No idea.
It's a DFW school, right? I'm almost certain.
No idea. No idea.
Either way, it's it's a sad story. If Matthew Stafford and Clayton Kershaw, with the exception of Stafford going to the Rams and finally winning that Super Bowl,
Yeah.
the amount of talent they would have while also simultaneously just falling short over and over and over again.
Kershaw has a
Kershaw
World Series.
finally getting to
Yeah.
that, but
He's got World Series.
not because of him.
Whoa.
Look, Clayton Kershaw is one of my favorite pitchers of all time. It's also one of the worst playoff pitchers ever.
I think he was. He
He
was
was
okay.
finally
in
good.
playoffs.
He was finally good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just their career arcs are very similar,
Yeah.
right? Incredibly great, wildly productive players
Yes.
that fell short until finally kind of putting it all together in the right place.
Oh, dang. What is going on here? Clayton Kershaw in the 2020 World Series, which they won, he was okay. He was okay. They won both of his starts in that World Series. Now, in the other games, in the other World Series against the Red Sox and the Astros, not so much, my friend. He was, and I don't know how much we're going to weigh the game in Houston that he got roughed up for. He went 4 2/3, 4 hits, 6 earned runs, but that was in Houston, when they were banging on trash cans in 2017.
Oh, yeah.
Do we give him a little pass for that?
Yeah.
We want to give him a little pass for that? I think we should.
Yeah, because he lost a little bite on the fastball.
I feel like we owe it to Clayton Kershaw to maybe throw that one out. And then he also had a blow-up game against the Boston Red Sox in 2018, which, reminder, folks, remember the Apple Watches thing with the Yankees and the Red Sox, right? Yeah. All right.
Highland Park High School. It's Dallas. That's where they went.
Oh, yeah. All right.
But
Did they win the state championship in baseball?
Did not see one.
Dang.
But Kershaw went, I think, 13-0 with a .77 ERA.
Oh. I can see why they drafted him.
That's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
My goodness, that's a different level of filth. Oh, speaking of filth, we had a couple.
Why you got to do that before you toss to me?
Oh, I was calling you
You're supposed to
filthy,
Sports Center.
you dirty animal. We had a ton of worst day on the web nominees that we were going to run with. I have had one come across the wire here in the last few minutes. We have a new contender for worst airline.
Oh.
And it's it is a doozy. We'll get to that more on our Worst Day on the Web. But first,
Ooh.
here's the Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
And no
That's
state
that Hawaiian burger
championships.
joint.
This is a Big Ten Media Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on the Fan, the Mariners, losers of 6 of their last 7. The Angels coming into T-Mobile Park for the second of 3 games tonight. Logan Gilbert on the bump for Seattle. Jose Soriano for LA. That's your pitching matchup. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. Seattle and Houston currently tied at the top of the AL West. In the NFL, ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting Jets defensive end Hassan Reddick does not plan to report to training camp today as he's looking for a new contract. He's set to make $14.5 million in this, the final year of his deal. NFL Network reporting 49ers receiver Brandon Ayuk is reporting to camp despite his trade request over extension negotiations. Jaguars announced the signing of cornerback Tyson Campbell to a 4-year, $76.5 million extension with $53.4 million guaranteed. That makes him the 6th highest paid corner in the league. And Browns receiver Amari Cooper has reported to camp after the two sides agreed to a restructured contract that will give him a pay raise and guarantee his $20 million salary. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The home of prime time with Isaac and Sue. Weekdays 3 to 7, 1080 The Fan.
by the Odyssey app.
On 1080 The Fan. It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
That sucks.
You heard about old CrowdStrike causing
Yes.
all kinds of problems?
Yes. Yeah.
How big of a problem do you think it is for the airline industry right now? How much have you seen around the social media world?
It's outside of Southwest Airlines. Everybody has been affected by it.
I've seen multiple media folks basically say, stop trying to travel.
What was it? Air India, I think it was. They went old school with it, and they were like handwriting their manifests. I mean, that's a smaller operation than Delta or United or
Still
American.
possible.
But that's the way that they went, and it's like, that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, one company has opted to just not do it.
Oh,
Delta.
okay.
They have now canceled since Friday 5,370 flights. Not delayed, not postponed, outright canceled. You're not getting on a flight. You're not getting home. You're not going anywhere. That is, to put in perspective, more flights than Delta canceled in all of 2018
Oh.
and all of 2019 together.
What about
They-
2020? What did we see? What did we see with 2020 during COVID?
Well, they didn't fly, so
well, I know.
so they didn't cancel it.
All right.
They have 2 years worth of cancellations in 5 days.
Yikes.
Yeah, my wife's cousin is stranded over in the Netherlands right now, I think.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Couple extra days there.
Yeah, that's.
Yowzers.
But I mean, that can get, depending on where you're stuck, it can get super expensive. So there's a bunch of federal requirements.
So when did this happen? When did CrowdStrike happen again?
Friday.
Friday?
I think that was Friday, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And Friday was the 19th.
Yeah.
Right. On the 18th, so the day before,
Mhm.
you were looking at shares of Delta were trading at what, 46.30,
Mhm.
and now they are down to 43.62. Maybe some value. Maybe some value in Delta stock.
10% hit.
It's gone down quite a bit.
That's a significant dip.
3.9% in the last 5 days alone.
Yikes.
I mean, that's what happens when you cancel 5,000 flights, though.
If you were at a hub, Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
Dallas,
Mhm.
Atlanta, you're screwed right now. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen the footage of the carnage.
So and here's the thing, I wouldn't even know, like, where do you even begin? Like,
Well,
if
that's
you're
the-
one of these stranded travelers, are you like, this is where I live now? This is, this is.
I am Tom Hanks in the terminal.
Well, the thing about
This
this
is-
is these airports are
Well,
packed
Looks like I'm home.
with all of these people, right? And think about this. You've got thousands of people stranded.
Yeah.
So there's no hotel rooms around the airport.
Well, and then
There's no other additional airplanes that get on.
we're at now 4 days of staying in a hotel. There's only so long that you can do this. Is Delta footing the bill for this? Is Microsoft going
Well,
to
here
foot the
legally
bill
they're
for it?
supposed to, and that is the thing that people are fighting right now is that multiple airlines, including Delta, are only giving credit where they are legally required. that if
Because
they-
that law that was passed
yes, well, last
just a few months ago.
you say was that
Yeah.
this year?
It was within the year. Yeah.
But they are legally required if they cannot get you on another airplane in a basically same day, a relatively faster fashion than expected, then they are required to fully, including taxes and fees, reimburse the ticket. And they're just saying that they're just going to give credit, and they're just hoping that people won't notice.
Yeah. No, that ain't gonna fly.
They aren't
bro.
putting people up in hotels. They
No.
aren't footing any food bills. Like, no, Delta should be going damn near broke right now, covering.
Get bailed out by the taxpayers.
Dude, it's
It's gonna happen.
gonna happen again.
It's gonna happen.
Again.
I think it was Chris Long I saw on Twitter earlier that he found out about the existence of the airport provided sleeping mats.
Oh.
So it's basically like going back to preschool and taking a nap on the floor.
Bed bugsing it up.
Don't know if I would use that.
It's a hard pass for me. Hard no, dog.
But in all honesty, though, what is it that you do? I mean, at this point, it looks like I'm getting a one-way rental car. which are all probably all gone out of the airport inventories.
And by the
too.
way, one-way rentals, super expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, because it screws up their inventory.
Yeah.
Delta's got to pay for that somehow. That's
Again, taxpayers.
Yeah. I know. Luckily I don't know anybody who's been caught up in that, but what a kerfuffle that is.
Yeah. That is an obscene amount of flights.
Yeah. Do you see the video of the lady just
Screaming like a possessed child.
Yeah.
The best part about that video is the guy in the foreground, he spins around, you see his T-shirt, and his T-shirt says, "Keep your S together."
She did not.
She did not.
She
No,
did
and
not.
she's like some IG influencer who's like, ah! Like, it's a high-pitched
That explains it.
squeal.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that is happening because all of these people that stuck at airports, all of the influencers think that they're aggrieved.
Yeah, are they all
people.
doing the "Do you know who I am"?
Yes, and they're also like they're
As a
filming.
matter of
them-
fact, I don't.
and
I
they're
have
filming
31
themselves
million
doing it.
followers, and
Yeah.
I can talk S about you on the interwebs.
Yeah, let me go ahead and tell you right now, Miss Travel Influencer, nobody cares because everyone's screwed right now.
Yeah. Dude, how about this one? Hey, bros, on CrowdStrike, my 17-year-old minor kid was on his way back to visiting friends in Michigan last weekend on Frontier Airlines. That is warning sign number one. He made 2 legs of the flight, got stuck in Ontario, California with a canceled flight. Not an adult, so couldn't get a hotel room. No other flights that day. That from Spartan Bro. What? Okay, but then what do you do with your kid then? Like what? As a parent, you're like, I can't get down to you because guess what? Airline's not. Oh, I guess you could take into Ontario. You could take a Southwest airline, right? But you're just saying, pack it up. Let's head back home. I mean, do you go? A way to get around the one-way rental fee is to rent a U-Haul. Go home alone.
There you go.
Find a polka band and hop in there with John Candy and
All good.
get your butt home.
Vancouver Ford text line also highlighting that the Department of Transportation is now opening investigation into Delta, and I can confirm that is exactly true. This, according to ABC News, Department of Transportation is opening investigation into Delta over flight disruptions.
Okay, you tell me, what is this investigation gonna?
It's going to find that
It's-
they're canceling flights at a significantly higher rate.
And what's gonna happen?
I don't think they'll get fined.
They're just going to say, "Boy, you guys really didn't handle this very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, have you seen the
Try harder next time."
Well, in other government news, someone else who could have had the worst day on the web, the director of the Secret Service, she resigned
Well.
after getting absolutely destroyed by both. Hey, guess what?
It's a one thing we can
Both
agree on.
sides of the political spectrum. You sucked at your job. You
Yeah.
allowed a 20-year-old kid to get up on a roof with a rifle,
And people
within
are like,
100
hey,
yards of the
somebody's
president.
there.
and they're like, ah.
I'll get to him.
There's a credible threat before too. It's
cool.
It's all
Yeah.
fantastic stuff.
It's all working out.
So
very
yeah,
well.
the government they'll solve problems.
Yeah. They'll really get down to the nitty gritty of this and really find out what happened.
The brass tacks of it all. They'll hold Delta's feet to the fire.
Oh my gosh.
Moral of the story: fly Alaskan.
Yeah, I'm pro Alaska.
I mean, worst case scenario, you get sucked out of a hole.
That's a pretty bad scenario.
Yeah.
Like that worst case is
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
pretty brutal, dude.
Like I said, I was on that 737 Boeing flying to Las Vegas on
about
Southwest. I would have been good.
Yeah, you would have been fine.
Would have been totally fine.
Yeah.
That was the first time I've ever flown Southwest. I didn't realize that was the
cattle call.
Yeah.
I'm not about that life.
No.
Some people love it.
Apparently you can like make it easier by just checking in sooner.
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
know that.
24 hours, but it really doesn't.
Oh no, it does. It changes quite a bit because I was in Group C on the way down there,
Yeah.
which meant all the way in the back of the plane and waiting an hour longer than everybody else to get on the plane. Legitimately,
Are you in a hurry to get on the plane? I'm never.
I'm never in a hurry to
plane.
get on the plane, but I thought it was a little bit weird how long it took to board.
Well, yeah, because you know what people do on Southwest Airlines? Like, I got a buddy who's in the airport. Is like, oh, so this is what we're doing now, and it was a line of 15 wheelchairs.
Oh God! So everybody's doing that now.
Yeah, and they were just working their way up to the front of the line to go in front of everybody who's in boarding group A. Like it was an egregious amount of people,
I should
and you're like,
throw on my knee brace and
You're
hop
going,
on the wheelchair.
dang, man, like on one hand, I feel bad for all these people, but there's no way all these people
Oh, Suk was talking about how one time he got let on early because he had his arm in a sling.
Yeah, that'll
He's
happen.
like, seriously?
It-
Okay.
okay,
Maybe I
it
should just
works.
test the bounds of this and like do the finger splint. Do I count?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm injured.
Yeah.
This finger I have to keep above my head the whole time.
This is my truth.
Yeah.
Scout's honor.
There we go.
2 fingers up. So yeah, worst day on the web, airline industry, more specifically Delta. Carrying forward with worst days on the web, Paul Feinbaum just stepping in it regularly, and he says a lot of things that are egregious and borderline dumb. This might actually take the cake on multiple fronts. We'll get to that and more here coming up on Danny and Dusty, 10 the Fan. Big Ten Media Days. This is a 3-day period as we get through the progression through the end of the week, really, when we will have the teams we're more familiar with. You are currently progressing through the task that I gave you earlier of trying to identify the crossover teams in the Big Ten that are similar to their brethren in the Pac-12.
The Pac-12 equivalents. And look, there are no Pac-12 equivalents to Michigan and Ohio State.
No.
We don't have that because they have shared 7 Big Ten championships in a row, bouncing back and forth between the two. Legitimate national title winners in the last decade. They are different.
Yes.
They are different. So there aren't comps to Michigan and Ohio State because we don't need to familiarize ourselves with Michigan or Ohio
we
State.
know those two.
I will go through though, and it's harder than you think because the differences are out and they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have a couple that are pretty good and that we can bounce back and forth with. The list is not complete though because the bottom feeders, they're really bad.
Yeah, the bottom feeders are bad.
They're really bad, and it's hard. It's hard, but I'm getting there, and I'm finding some of the equivalents, and we will. I'm ready to unveil them next hour. That is for sure.
Okay. Big Ten Media Days on the Fan are brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here, and we are hopefully trying to get Purdue quarterback Hudson Card here in the next hour, as well as maybe a couple other guests.
Maybe.
Perhaps. The structure, as we have said throughout today's show, is not quite as solid.
But it is going to ramp up because tomorrow the universities that we're more familiar with will start rolling out. USC, UCLA are tomorrow as part of Big Ten Media Days, along with Michigan, Minnesota, Maryland, and Indiana. So, but USC, UCLA, they'll roll out tomorrow. We have relationships with their sports information offices, and obviously Oregon and Washington are coming through on Thursday. And we are familiar with them and how the Pac-12 teams, how they operate is a lot more open communication right now.
So come out, we'll continue at Big Ten Media Days and everything that comes out of it here in hour number 3 on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
I'm Jill Zemeski.
Hour number 3 here on Danny and Dusty on a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us, whether you're listening on 1080 AM The Fan, watching along on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan, or twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan. We appreciate you. We love you. And thank you for hanging out with us on day 1 of Big Ten Media Days. So many media days.
Yeah.
3 of them, in fact. Starting today, going into tomorrow, where we'll have the USC and UCLA. And then on Thursday, when Oregon and Washington also make their official introduction into the Big Ten. And, day 1 on Friday, when they're all official members of the Big Ten.
That's crazy. It's super weird to kind of go through this and be like, oh, well, it's officially official. Pac-2.
It did not upset me or bother me in the sense of, oh, it's going to be weird. But now it feels weird.
Yeah.
It legitimately does. As we talked about last hour, the whole idea of this being at your first day of high school. Nothing feels familiar. Nothing feels normal, whether it's the facility, whether it's the media groups, the local radio and TV. Everything just feels different.
Or the buttloads of money that each of these schools are going to be raking in.
Well,
in
that
about
feels
5
relatively
years.
similar.
Yeah.
That feels relatively similar.
No, not really, because it's going to be gobs and gobs of money. In about 10 years, they're saying that media deal is going to be tasty, my friends.
Yeah,
Tasty.
that's why we got here. And speaking of media, Paul Feinbaum, appeared on First Take, and boy, did he set off to irritate the living hell out of me. He said Deion Sanders would be the perfect replacement for Lincoln Riley at USC, simply because, well, I think he's got an axe to grind with Lincoln Riley.
To me, it's about trajectory. And I think he's lost the momentum. He had that town. Stephen, you live there a lot of the year. You have to win in LA, otherwise you lose badly. And I think he's losing badly. And instead of harping on Lincoln Riley, I've decided to come up with a solution. I thought about this the other day. Okay, maybe he does well, maybe he doesn't. But the answer is really moving forward. And I believe the answer after this season is Deion Sanders. He's going to be tired of Colorado because, quite frankly, it's not prime time. He's done well as he can with his son and Travis Hunter and all the Stephen A's and Shannon Sharp appearances, but that's going to dry up this year because they're not going to be that great. But you put prime in Tinseltown, and I think you have one of the great combinations in history. We just got through talking about, or you did, LeBron. LeBron has owned that town as many others before him. And I think Deion Sanders, as the coach at Southern Cal, is the answer to the problems. Lincoln Riley is a good coach. He's got a great resume. Deion Sanders just exudes exactly what that community is all about. He takes the recruiting there, which Lincoln had and then lost, but I think he sustains it, especially now. Today, the Big Ten Media Days is going on with Southern Cal. And can you imagine a year from today, Deion Sanders walks into Big Ten Media Days. Everybody else, get out of the way.
It's my own personal hell. I hate everything about this.
What do you hate about it?
I mean, what has Deion, I want Deion to be successful in Colorado, but what has he done to really bring anything to that program other than bring Travis Hunter with him and his son?
Yeah, that is a great point. Lincoln Riley's 74-18 as a head coach. Yeah. But here's the
multiple Heisman winners.
The big issue in that is, of those 18 losses, 8 of them have come in 2 years at USC. And
with a lot of them last year.
And with the Heisman Trophy winner and the number 1 overall draft pick.
Yes.
I mean, in that, one of the big reasons why Oklahoma fans were like, oh, yeah, Goodrins, we don't like him anyways, is that they said the defense was terrible there. The defense has been terrible at USC. Yeah. It's actually far worse than it was at Oklahoma. And Oklahoma, they aren't sitting there anymore saying, oh, we're so glad he's gone. They're on to the SEC. Brent Venables is a fine coach.
Absolutely.
He's doing a good job. But at the same time, they're not at the level that they were.
They don't have the same juice.
With Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley is learning right now how to get out of his own way because he hasn't handled USC very well. And I think that there is something that Feinbaum is saying that there is truth to, in that to be the head coach and be successful at USC, you have got to embrace the Hollywood.
Yes, you Pete Carroll, the part of the illustriousness of USC in that period was the biggest part was the success.
But it was Sark did the same thing. He just a little too much.
A little too much, a little too saucy, as it were. But Lincoln Riley going full Chip Kelly and shutting down practices, shutting down media, blacking out everything. You don't do that at USC. You do the complete opposite. You kind of put it on the table, as it were, and go, this is what I'm working with. Deal with it.
And he has not done a good job of doing that.
No, he had the run-in with the local reporter where they banned him for 2 weeks, and they ended up having to walk that back because Lincoln acted out of pocket. Lincoln doesn't make the appearances as necessary to the alumni and boosters meetings that are not only necessary in college football, but you're behind the Dodgers. You're behind the Lakers. The Rams, depends on how good you are.
If you're good,
you're
right squarely.
The thing is, if you're great at USC, you are behind the Lakers and the Dodgers, and that is it.
Mm-hmm.
That is the level that USC has shown, not only during the Pete Carroll era, but before that. You can be the third best team in Los Angeles ahead of other professional teams.
I just wonder with USC if they're losing a little bit of that momentum with their fan base, though, because they have not done a very good job on the recruiting trail because of who they are, because they are USC. And being USC means that you aren't a top 20 recruiter. You are a top 5 recruiter.
Yes.
That is what you should be.
You walk into living rooms and you already are ahead of most of the country.
One of the things that USC has been criticized for, and we're seeing it right now, is they have way too many cooks in the kitchen that feel that they have a big voice and it gets in the way. Yeah. Look at their athletic director hires that they've had. Look at the fact that the coaches that they will run right out of town, and rightfully so, because they haven't made great hires before. Well, you went and you got Lincoln Riley, and your NIL, once that hit, was an absolute mess. It's been a disaster down there. There's guys that were threatening to transfer because they weren't getting the money that they were promised in that NIL. And you cannot have that. And on top of that, when you're not winning football games, that compounds everything, because guys would be more prone to stick around and tough it out if you're winning football games too. You can't do it and go 8-5 and have your defense be an abject failure.
Yeah, no, I was talking to Antonio Morales a couple weeks ago from The Athletic, who covers USC, and so was checking in on the NIL situation. And he goes, it's not money. They've got more money than God. It's like what you mentioned. It's not having the organization. It's not being as prepared as Oregon, Ohio State, or Michigan, or Alabama. It's not having the framework around it, because I believe the last update just came out. USC is the most expensive school in the country. They generate more revenue than basically anyone, just off admission stuff.
But
that didn't touch the level of endowment that they have. It's in the top 10 in the country.
But again, I think this is where it falls on the head coach.
Yes.
Is that you have to organizationally, and we were talking about this earlier, the new age of head coach is you have to have the hire of your general manager who is in charge of all of that, who is that liaison to, the inside of the football program and those that are outside of the football program, and being able to control kind of how your football program is perceived by the boosters who are funding all the NIL. That's your head coach, and having him go out and glad hand, which Lincoln Riley does not want to do. He does not like doing. And that's got to change for Lincoln Riley. I don't think Deion necessarily is the guy to make sure that happens, because look, you want to see USC fans revolt. The turnover in the transfer portal, that's how their boosters would go absolutely ape,
bonkers.
You know what? Because of the fact that they'd be like, wait a minute. Like, we gave NIL to this guy so we could land him. He's gone in a year. Deion in Colorado is working right now because he's like, so, all right, our two most highly coveted recruits in my first recruiting class, they enter the portal. They're gone. Dylan Edwards, namely. And the boosters like, well, we're still seeing more publicity and recognition than Colorado football has gotten in a very long time.
Yeah.
We're going to be okay with that. At
That's
USC,
not the
that ain't
case.
going to fly.
No.
It will not fly. Now, will the cupboard be as bare as what he took over, what Deion took over at Colorado? Hell no. No, it will never be that. And if it is, USC's got a whole other set of problems.
Good God.
But Deion also isn't the answer because he doesn't like recruiting high school kids. And he's said as much. He doesn't go to high school kids. They come to him. Guess what? At USC, you better get your butt on a plane and go to visit kids' homes because that's what everybody else is doing. Kirby Smart is doing it. Dan Lanning is doing it. Ryan Day is doing it. And those are the guys that are out recruiting USC in spades right now. And they're out recruiting Deion Sanders at Colorado, too.
And the other thing about this is my own personal view is I was like, okay, let's see what Lincoln does. Year one was above expectations. I thought they would win 9, maybe 10 games, and they ended up winning 11. Caleb wins the Heisman. I was like, okay. Last year was a massive step back, and the only good thing that came out of last year was Alex Grinch getting fired. And that gives me, if I'm looking at USC, at least an iota of hope of Lincoln Riley changing, simply because Grinch was his guy and has been his guy. And everyone in the room was telling him he has got to go.
Yeah.
He not only got rid of him, he made impactful, and that staff and the AD brought in what should be impactful changes. You've got a couple dogged recruiters. Now, they are not living up to the recruiting level they should be at. That's absolutely still true. I tend to believe that's because they have not gotten their ducks in a row, as opposed to being as dysfunctional on the coaching football side of things. But, I mean, the flip side of it is they've also lost 3 5-stars that they had committed.
Well, and I think this is where the issues happen, is that when you have the chink in the armor, other programs pounce. And a little bit of the shine has come off of Lincoln Riley.
And I think that's what happened when those 3 5-stars, 2 of them to Georgia and 1 to A&M, left. And I think that's – if USC can somehow find a way to get back into the top 10 in recruiting, they can probably save that.
And I'll tell you, recruiting, it's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job. And you have to have a staff that is committed to it, not just a couple. You got to have a staff committed to it. And that, I don't know if SC has that, because you can get into the door with the NIL money. And again, money isn't everything in recruiting. No matter what you think, it helps you get in the door. It'll help you close. It does not win kids over. I mean, in the very few that it does, they ain't going to be there for long anyways. But, and USC is a great example of it. You're in Los Angeles. You have buttloads of cash that you can promise kids and say, hey, we have the funds to make
Forget
this happen.
NIL, we can get you legitimate sponsors of,
but
moguls.
Are you able to get in and connect with recruits and win recruits and their families over? Because USC, that should be no problem with them.
And
yet it is. And they've lost the good graces with a lot of the local powerhouses down there.
St. Bosco Prep, which used to be a pipeline.
Mater Dei.
Yep.
I mean, they are, and when you start having other schools infiltrate it, and this isn't just Lincoln Riley.
No.
This is a decade plus of we started to see with Clemson in Alabama. They started moving out into the West. Ohio State started plucking kids out of Southern California and off the West Coast. And now
Clay Helton was
they get when they get their hooks in, though, all of a sudden, it ain't as cool to stick around and stay in L.A. They'll leave.
They'll see one guy, hey, he did it. Hey, this guy did it. Hey, this guy did it.
And now you're looking at, that's where USC used to thrive, is we fence off our backyard in Southern California. And because we're cool, because we're SC, because they had those pit bull recruiters, they would go across the country and they would
kids
pull
out
kids
of Florida every
New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Like they had the ability to do that. It's not
now
there anymore.
It's few and far between.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Feinbaum is.
He's got an axe to grind on Lincoln Riley, though.
He's missing the target on Deion.
No,
but I think with Lincoln Riley, there are some warts there that are starting to show, and when guys like Feinbaum start seeing those warts, they're going to pounce on them.
I have a reeling suspicion if Lincoln Riley was still at Oklahoma, he would have a different view of.
Because he'd be joining the SEC at that point?
Yeah.
I don't know. He didn't like him at Oklahoma either.
That's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
that was.
But now
but
that
it was
he's
Big
part
12,
of the
yeah.
SEC, come on, pow!
Yeah, I just look. We've just seen a few too many times. Kind of a big chunk of news coming out of Big Ten Media Days that hasn't really hit the news circuits that much. Dennis Dodd is reporting that coaches are talking about roster limits in college football, and we've heard anywhere from 85 to 100. Dennis Dodd said that they had Luke Fickell on, the head coach at Wisconsin, who mentioned a massive number of players on roster limits on college football teams. We'll talk about that and more, and the implications coming around Danny and Dusty today. The Fan. we've talked about the structuring or restructuring of college football across not only the country but individually across conferences, and the big boys having more say than anyone else at the table, as it should be. One of the lines that we heard coming out of anonymously out of the college football reporting, as we're just careen towards a 40-team conference eventually. I don't know why we are pretending why we can't just get there, but was the limit on roster caps. And I personally am in favor of 85 to 100. I think that's the correct number. Luke Fickell said that he has heard in the room of coaches in the Big Ten that they wanted as high as 140.
Yeah, and look, that's not scholarship players, because I think, and there was a conversation earlier in late spring about rosters being capped at 85, and that would be your 85 scholarship players that you are allowed right now. And I think that would be horrible for the game. Yeah. I think walk-ons, it doesn't matter how much they play. There is a spot and a place on a team for guys that are walk-on players. And some of them, they turn into serviceable players. But majority of them, they are the reason why like college football is great, right? Is because they had no other, they may have even had other offers, but they didn't have scholarship offers. They went to the school that they wanted to play for, and they did it because they love the school that they play for. And I think what that does is a lot of times that takes away guys who just are in college football for the love of the game, and those guys who are walk-ons end up being coaches in high school and college football later on in life.
Not just that. Here's your group of BCS era walk-ons, legitimate walk-ons that were studs. Stetson Bennett, pretty damn good.
Pretty good.
Baker Mayfield,
pretty good. Bet on himself. Had an offer somewhere else.
Luke Falk,
Washington State quarterback, slinging it around for Mike Leach in the early days.
Matt McGloin, Penn
State quarterback. I didn't know he was a walk-on.
Hunter Renfrow.
Yep, Clemson.
Turned into an NFL player. Here's the big one. There's actually two. J.J. Watt.
Yes, he left Central Michigan where he was playing tight end and went to Wisconsin. We all know the story. Pizza delivery boy turns into All-American defensive end in one of the best edge rushers in NFL's history.
And then at USC, Clay Matthews, who, despite being a third-time legacy, did not get a scholarship.
See, there is a role. But I think that this is where that 140 is too far.
That's too far.
Because this is what teams will do to circumvent the rules here.
It's already
you
being
just go
done.
NIL. Yeah. And you get guys to walk on, you get them NIL deals, and boom, you basically got a scholarship guy. Hey, we're going to give you just enough NIL to offset your tuition and your room and board.
Weird how that works.
Yeah, Michigan did it with their defensive lineman who was like, you're a graduate student this year. Graduate school is far less expensive than being an undergrad student at Michigan. They said, how would you feel about being a walk-on? And your NIL opportunities are still there. Guess what?
Ta-da! And this is where I think you would
opens up a scholarship.
Well, I think you would start also turning into the hoarding again. I think we start seeing the Georgias of the world where their second, third, fourth string guys should be on other rosters.
Yeah. But there is a sense of pride, though, from high school kids that you don't do the hat dance on signing day and get your scholarship offer. And that's big to and I mean, that can't be ignored. That's huge to a lot of guys. You're talking about what would happen is the guys who are in between Boise State and a walk-on spot at Oregon. Oregon's like, hey, in this theoretical thing, right? Hey, we can offer you NIL opportunities as well at our university. And,
your playing time might not be as significant.
But look, and all this is going to change. Maybe 140 is a feasible number when you have a salary cap, which is the path that we're trending towards in college athletics. Is that a salary cap?
Look like?
I know. Well, $20 million for a team. it's $20 million is what they're saying is like that starting point. Maybe that changes everything in the way that we look at it. And 140 guys is all these teams, they want as many bodies as they possibly can.
There's also a million kickers on this list.
Yeah.
Kickers for days.
Kickers for days.
Well, what ends up happening is they look at the kicker they have on their roster, and then they throw out the open call to the student body. Hey, can anybody kick this oblong ball?
Yep.
And then there's
anybody.
who
Clemson did that. Clemson did that a couple years ago.
So I don't want to kill this guy.
Didn't they bring in a guy who quit football? And they're like, hey, man, can we call takebacks on you quitting football, and can you come kick? Because we don't have anybody that can put the ball through the uprights.
Or anyone that we trust.
Yeah. I think we need walk-ons. There's a spot for them. There's a huge role. But 140 is that is way.
I think 15 is a good number. That's why I said 85 to 100.
Yeah.
Like that's that.
I mean, just think of what are you doing with numbers there? I mean, we already have guys doubling up numbers left and right. Like you're looking at 140 guys.
They got prison numbers, got dashes.
I'm 0.7.
Yeah.
That's my number.
Good Lord.
That's where we're going. 140 would be
That's too many.
A massive number, though. And I think that would be the trickle down. And the reason why there is a conversation there is because when you have the autonomous four that are going to be working, there's fewer opportunities for those guys, right?
Yeah.
And so if they want to play in one of the four big conferences, by the way, the autonomous four, they could say, yeah, we have 140 spots on our teams, and the other schools that will be under the NCAA umbrella, under what Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, he proposed just last week that, hey, we let the four big conferences break off, do their own thing. The NCAA does not govern them any longer. If that happens, the big four could say, yeah, 140. Meanwhile, the NCAA could go, we're going to go to 100. We're going to go to 100.
Tighter.
Yeah.
Do you want to pivot back to the NFL and go with some unhinged Harbaugh talk?
Yeah, I have my Big Ten comps done.
Do you have done?
I have my
Okay,
Big
let's
Ten
do that
comps
instead.
are done. I
All
got
right.
the Big Ten comps.
I tasked Dusty with finding our comps so we can have our introductions for those that are just now diving into their Big Ten knowledge base. These are your crossovers. What team from the Pac-12 kind of exists in the Big Ten cinematic universe, as it were?
Yeah, some will be reaches, some will make complete sense.
Okay, we'll get to that and more coming up. But first, it's the Big Kahuna Sports and Update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
This is a Big Ten Media Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air, serving Portland, Southwest Washington, and the Gorge, online at aneheatingandcooling.com. It's hard to stop a train. First on the Fan, the Mariners have lost 6 of their last 7. The Angels in T-Mobile Park for the second of 3 games. Logan Gilbert opposite Jose Soriano, 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. Gilbert, the only pitcher in the Bigs with 3 starts of at least 8 scoreless innings this year and 4 starts of at least 7 scoreless innings. Shortstop J.P. Crawford likely headed for the injured list after suffering a hairline fracture in his right pinky in last night's loss. In the NFL, ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting Jets defensive end Hassan Reddick does not plan to report to training camp as he is looking for a new contract. He's set to make $14.5 million in the final year of his deal. NFL Network reporting 49ers receiver Brandon Ayuk is reporting to camp despite his trade request over extension negotiations. Jaguars announced the signing of cornerback Tyson Campbell to a 4-year, $76.5 million extension with $53.4 million guaranteed. That makes him the 6th highest paid corner in the league. And Browns receiver Amari Cooper is reported to camp after the two sides agreed to a restructured contract that will guarantee his $20 million salary and give him a raise. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
LASIK and ICL.
Earlier, I tasked Dusty with finding the fair comps between the previous iteration of the Pac-12 and what the new Big Ten looks like. It's the crossover examples.
Yeah, I mean,
the multiverse.
Michigan and Ohio State, they do not have comps because they've won national titles in the last 20 years. Yeah. Which is a big difference.
Been there, done that.
But if you want to go, since the Big Ten expanded out and we're looking for Pac-12 equivalents here, I think I got some. For us. First, we'll go Penn State. Penn State is, to me, USC is the comp for them. Rich football history, historically really good, and they have a rich tradition of football, but they have their ebbs and flows, their ups and downs. Well, they'll go from a Rose Bowl to a Pinstripe Bowl. You go up and down, but the expectation is Penn State is really damn good. But they getting over the hump is the big one there. Last conference title outright was 2016 for Penn State, where they can be really good. They can be pretty mid at the same time, right?
Also, both the quarterbacks from both schools never good in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a good point. Iowa, this one was simple. It's Utah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
right?
That's probably the straightest line you can draw in college football.
They are fatally flawed.
Incredibly well coached.
But you are sitting there going, nobody wants to play them.
No.
Nobody wants to play them at the end of the year. Defense is always good. And you always have this, where did this guy come from? And they turn out guys to the NFL. They develop talent like nobody else.
Utah, it's the poly kids. In Iowa, it's the white kids.
It's the cornbread, corn-fed boys that just, God, they are monsters out
They
there.
have white corners.
Yeah.
And they don't just have them, they're good.
Yep. Wisconsin, I'm going, this is a hybrid pick for me. This is a hybrid pick.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
Oregon State.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Wisconsin is, because they are consistently good, they will bloody you and play a smash mouth version of football, but can still be very exciting. They are a hybrid of Utah, and then I will throw in this one because of the atmosphere, how wild it gets, and the fact you never want to play there in November, Washington State. They are Utah, Washington State
That's really
hybrid.
good. Okay.
Where they like going to Camp Randall Stadium.
It's an outpost that you don't want to go to.
It's an experience.
Rice Eccles is honestly...
Rice Eccles was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. But I look at Wisconsin has got a little bit more flash.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
For sure.
They do with the history. And look, I mean, people can crack their jokes at Washington State. Washington State has turned out some really damn good NFL players too. So, in historically speaking, so I'm going with a hybrid of Utah.
Camp 80,000.
It's huge. It's nowhere near Martin Stadium. Martin Stadium is small, but win or lose, they still booze. That is the same thing that they have at Wisconsin.
33,000.
And those people go nuts. And they're out there when it's, 10 degrees. If the team is good, that stadium is packed, and they are going absolutely crazy.
Here's a fun fact about Camp Randall. The construction cost. It was built in 1917.
Yeesh.
$15,000.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got Wisconsin, Washington State, Utah hybrid. Michigan State, this one was an easy line to draw for me. It's Oregon State because of Jonathan Smith, because Aiden Childs, because Jack Velling, because of all the transfers they have there. And then there's also this where now they are different in Oregon State in that they have a richer tradition in history, but when they do not have the right coach in place, it goes into the side of the mountain faster than you can imagine. And we've seen that at Oregon State too. If you don't have the right coach in place, that place,
but when they get it right,
wasteland.
It's damn good.
And their runs aren't like with Mark D'Antonio, they did build a lot of consistency there. On the heels of one great year from Nick Saban where he said deuces going to LSU. He rode that thing out. Right coach, stayed there for a long time, and they were consistently good. Oregon State has not had that long run, though, right? And Michigan State has had far more success overall as a program than Oregon State has. But the lines with Jonathan Smith, taking Oregon State's coach, that's what they're going to be. They're going to be in
being
that
little brother in the
mentality.
state.
Yeah, absolutely. Nebraska, this one was tough. I think they are more. I have two of them from the Pac-12.
UCLA.
UCLA and UW,
Yep.
where because UW and UCLA, their tradition is deep and it is rooted. Nebraska, it is. And UW, their fan base is still very passionate, even when they have their downs, right? That
and
Nebraska
Big Red
has
is
that.
still very passionate.
But Nebraska is on another level than what UW is, even because people still show up when they're bad. But that one is also, when the right coach is in place, that thing is humming. It can get humming, but they had their bad hires too. Scott Frost, Mike Riley,
basically everyone for the past 20 years.
Yeah, and then like UCLA, they could have the right coach and run him off as well. So you have that. But that one, I feel very uncomfortable with that. I'm just going with
it's the heritage,
the tradition, the history, and their fan base is unlike any other. And look, a lot of these comps, the fan bases are nothing like the Pac-12.
It's different.
Nothing even close. But rich tradition, history, but when you fall on hard times, boy, do they want to be back in a way that you cannot imagine.
It's interesting. This is where I feel full old guy.
Yeah.
Is Nebraska. Because the kids that are 20 right now, they have no idea what peak Nebraska was.
Yeah, Nebraska is not again, feel very uncomfortable with this comp because it's tough.
Peak Nebraska was the best team in the country, and good for a decade.
Honestly, both those schools, UW and UCLA, they have traditional uniforms that have always looked clean. Nebraska always looks. They always look good. Northwestern, Stanford, nerds. Right coach in place, really good.
Yeah.
Not good or relevant at all if
Yeah,
they don't have a coach. Purdue, that is also a Washington State comp for me. You go back, really fun offenses in the 90s and through the 2000s.
Yeah.
But you sit there and you look and you go, boy, they can be really bad.
Boy, you're a basketball school.
Yeah. It can go south in a hurry.
Shout out Klay
you're
Thompson.
in the middle of nowhere, West Lafayette, Indiana, Pullman, Washington. You're kind of out in the sticks. I think
they probably both booze a lot.
West Lafayette, I believe, is closer to Indianapolis than Washington State is to Seattle. But at the same time, you're out there. You're kind of in the boonies. Purdue guys that's a really smart school, though.
No, it is.
I mean, they got astronauts. John Glenn.
Which, again, it kind of shows you the bar for astronauts back then.
Yep, different. Maryland is Oregon without the wins. They have an apparel
giant behind them.
Magnet behind them who gives them really cool uniforms, but they just don't win.
God, those helmets are great.
I like the white. Are you talking the white ones, or are you talking the flag?
Not the flag.
Oh, I hate the flag.
Do you?
Ones.
Oh,
yeah,
I love
think
the
those
flag
are bad.
ones.
Those are bad.
It is easily the busiest helmet that I've ever liked. Because normally I don't like that much going on.
Yeah, and look, they wanted to be the Oregon of the East.
Yeah.
Hadn't worked out for them. Well, they're Oregon without the wins right now.
Maybe make a shoe that doesn't suck.
Yep. Rutgers is Cal. Tough out.
Yeah.
Smart kids. Tough out.
Expensive.
And you sit there and you go, New Jersey is sneaky a really good football state, high school football wise. Northern California, like, how are you not peeling more of those guys off?
Yeah, no.
Right?
Even though the Northeast doesn't play football, it's because the line stops at New Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you don't play football in New York.
Mm-mm.
But
Jersey.
New Jersey, you still play football.
Illinois, damn, this is a tough one. This is tough. I didn't know. I went Cal, Arizona State hybrid.
I was going to say Arizona State.
Where there's talent in the state of Illinois. You're going, how are you not
keeping those guys?
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's outside of Chicago.
But tough out like Cal every year.
Yeah.
I didn't have a good one for
Arizona State never keeps anybody in state.
Minnesota is Arizona because if you look at how a lot of Iowa and Wisconsin are built, kids from Minnesota.
They stay. Yeah.
They go to Wisconsin or Iowa. Arizona, high school football talent in Arizona is loaded.
It's insane, and they all go to USC.
And you wouldn't think that that state has that much talent as it does. Very similar to Minnesota. And you're going, they should be better. And sometimes they sneak up on you. You're like, oh, damn, they're really good. And then they disappear for 4 or 5 years. And then they'll cycle back around. You'll be like, oh, wow.
You see the 23 players that come out of Chandler, Arizona every year.
It's crazy.
Come out of one city, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. And then Indiana's Colorado pre-Deion, but not good ever. Not good ever.
Yeah.
Just like all the bad Colorado. Not any of the good Colorado. Just the bad of it. It's all bad. Indiana's really bad at football. And I hope Kirk Cignetti is the guy who comes in like Deion and changes it, because he's putting it out there. All I do is win. Look me up, bro. I'm good.
There you go.
So I hope they get better. I don't know. Bloomington, Indiana.
There you go. Little
Indiana and Illinois didn't like it.
No, but
didn't like either
otherwise-
of those.
Otherwise, pretty good.
Yeah. It's hard because we're having to familiarize ourselves with Big Ten football, and it's a different world over
It
there.
is.
And
It's very different.
The thing is, whether it's you go down this list and you go Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, those fan bases show out. And I think that's going to be the biggest
the first time
difference.
Nebraska plays at Oregon and the Oregon fans see how they travel, they're going to go, what the hell is this?
And they have played at Oregon.
And recently?
2016? Was it 42-35, and they showed up.
Okay, there you go. All right, coming up next, Chauncey Billups made a little podcast appearance, and he shared a little something.
Whoa!
Don't post things at halftime. Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan. It's basketball off season, which means it's podcast season. And Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups hopped on with old Carmelo Anthony,
Blazers legend.
Blazers legend. I hate that. And old Miro from Jesus Miro to talk about a lot, but more specifically, what not to do as an NBA player.
We in New Orleans. We're down like 18 at the half. I had a kid. He had a nasty dunk. We coming out for the third quarter. This motherfucker done posted his dunk on his joint.
Stop it.
At halftime. Yo, at halftime,
hey,
bro, we down 18.
You got to optimize those numbers.
What you do, though? Man, you know I grinded his up, man. I get wind of it. I said, hey, yo, bro, get the back there and take that down off your joint, man. What the is wrong with you, man? Yeah. My bad, coach. He run to the back. We getting bombed, bro. We down 18. He posted joint at halftime. I said, man, what is going on?
I have a reeling suspicion that was probably Shaden.
You think it was Shaden Sharp?
Probably Shaden.
I'm trying to look this up right now because now my interest is piqued with who that could have been. When they went to New Orleans this past year, I don't believe that they were down at 18 at halftime. So deductive reasoning here would tell me it'd have to go back to the previous year because they only had one trip this past year. I wonder who it would be. You think it's Shaden Sharp?
I'm just going off of who would have had a dunk so good and who would be on social to do it. Because I'm trying to think, like guys that would have a good in-game dunk. You're limiting it,
yeah.
Because Scoot didn't really dunk much last year. Ant doesn't dunk